So the next FIFA international qualifiers won't happen until September. But we did get a second batch of teams that qualify to next year's World Cup, and I wanted to talk about them given that it recently just happened. So give me a second. I had pulled it up and then I was like, when's the next FIFA date? So let me see. Ooh, that's not it. All right, so there's that. Then there's the qualifiers. All right. So in this recent window from in June, we had one, two, three, four, five, six new teams added to the list. So now we have a total of 19 teams. 13 teams. I don't know where 19 came from. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, 13. I have no idea why I said 19. So 13 teams have been qualified to the 2026 World Cup, and I'm going to talk about the ones that qualified in June. I'm going to leave the two teams that have qualified for the first time last, so we can kind of go over um, with them a little bit more. So here is the next six batch of teams that qualified to next year's World Cup. So South Korea qualified on June 5th, 2025, after topping their group um, where they had Jordan, Iraq, Oman, Palestine, and Kuwait. Um, South Korea is one of those teams that they're good in their region. Outside of it, though, they don't really. How do I put this? They haven't really made a big impact on the World Cup, except for that, and literally the one time that they had made it a big impact, it was because of controversy or controversy or controversy, however you say that. I say controversy. It's my American English. But besides that, let's see, they did since 2002 group stage 2006, round of 16 2010, group stage 2014 and 18, and round of 16 2022. 2022 definitely looked like the weakest one, but and I mean they got like destroyed by Brazil. It's it's one of those teams that can like is there and you're there because of some of like one player, son, but like they're still like they're a good team. That's this is the hard part about South Korea is that they're a good team, but they're not good enough to be considered um like a wedge. Like and it's interesting because they're not like Iran, okay? Actually, Mm, I could kind of see them being kind of like grouped with Iran, in which in the AFC both are like the heavy hitters, the teams that the smaller teams are kind of like wanting to beat because they're big names around the world. But then once the World Cup comes along, uh, they kind of get pushed back. And I think South Korea is honestly another team that could that goes to the World Cup, but that's about it. They've become a team that make it to the World Cup, and I don't want to say that they feel like that's enough for them, but it's something that they could, if they really wanted to, and the soccer grew in South Korea, big changes could be made. So that's kind of my view on South Korea. Um, I mean, I look at here, they didn't lose. Now that I'm looking at it, they did not lose a single match in their qualifiers here. And you think, oh, they're dominating then. They tied Palestine 0-0, who did not qualify. And then they beat Oman 3-1 away. They beat Jordan 2-0. They beat Iraq by 1 goal, 3-2. They beat Kuwait 3-1 away. They tied Palestine 1-1 away. They tied Oman at home 1-1. They tied Jordan 1-1 at home, and then they beat Iraq 2-0 away. Oh, and they beat the one game at home against Kuwait 4-0, and one of them was an own goal. So I'm telling you, they're like they're a team that can get by through. And here's the thing about South Korea: they can get by through the AFC. They don't dominate, but they can get by. And then they go to the World Cup, and those weaknesses are exploited. So to me, it's kind of like Costa Rica. Let me explain. For the most part of their existence, Costa Rica has always been kind of seen like the third team. It was either them or Honduras for a while. It was United States, Mexico, and then Costa Rica was kind of like the third team that was like always supposed to be there. Um, and then Costa Rica would is a thorn on the side to United States, Mexico, the two big hitters, um, for like a while. Recently, right now, not too much, but before they were there, and then they would go to the World Cup, and most often than not, except for the 2014 World Cup, they wouldn't. They'd be destroyed. Last World Cup, 2022, they got destroyed 7-0 by Spain, and then also got destroyed by Germany. Somehow beat Japan, but by like the minimum. Um, I think it was like a by like a not even a play. I think it was like a free kick or something. I don't know. I may be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But that's kind of South Korea as well. Is that they're always present there. They're a headache to the smaller teams and to other big teams as well. And yet, at the World Cup stage, they haven't shown why they dominate in uh, in AFC. Or not even dominate. Why they are a big team. And so they're always that one team that like, oh, South Korea could do something, and then most often than not, they kind of don't. And and I'm not saying that they can't. It's just that there's something missing, and I don't know what it is about for South Korea to really truly, eh, you know, kind of go to the next step, take the next step. I don't know if this could be the World Cup that they could do that. Honestly, um, given that there's going to be lowered ranked teams at this World Cup, excuse me. But at the end of the day, I don't do ifs, ands, or buts, and I'll just leave it at that, and we'll end up having to wait and see what South Korea does. So the next team that I want to talk about is Australia, who qualified on June 10th, 2025, after being a runner-up in their Group C. So if you're wondering who Australia ended up runner-up, who was first? Japan. Japan was first. um, Australia ended up having to wait until the last game to qualify in this round to qualify to the World Cup. They were battling out against Saudi Arabia, who at this point looks like they're going down. But we're not talking about Saudi Arabia right now. We're talking about Australia. Australia, for the most part, ever since coming to the AFC, has been one of the big teams as well. Much like South Korea, one of the big teams. Um, sorry, let me pull that up. So, since coming over to the and I would say Australia is kind of like South Korea, kind of like Iran. They're a big team in AFC, then they come over here, and I mean, look at this: 2006 round of 16. That was when they were in OFC. Then 2010, starting from AFC region group stage. 2014 group stage, 2018 group stage, 2022 round of 16. So again, Australia is a team that can qualify through because they're one of the big teams, and because there's a lot of countries in that region, so they get like extra, uh, like a lot of big teams, so they kind of get like extra spots in it. But at the end of the day, Australia isn't a, a club that you think about and be like, yeah, they're definitely going to fight for the World Cup. Australia's big expectations is just getting through the group stage. In all honesty, from around the world, 100%. If you're an Australian fan, an Australian soccer fan, you might think, no, we can do it all. Or maybe you're like, nope, yep, you just hope to get out of the group stage. Maybe you're even like, we're just happy we make it, and that's okay too. But again, Australia is it's like it's a like middle team. When it comes to like the world stage, they're like a middle team. They don't they're not like they don't suck and they're getting like bombarded. But at that time, but like also, give me 1 second here. I'm trying to do a bit of this. Da, da, da. And so yeah, group stage, round of 16, and then if you look at their um, AFC Asian Cup, for some apparent reason, they were runners up in 2011. 2015, they were champions. 2019 quarterfinals, 2023 quarterfinals. Once again, they are a big club in AFC, but then it comes to you know the world stage, and they don't kind of show that. Or it's one of those things that you kind of have to acknowledge as well that the European teams and even South American teams have better players and on the pitch, most often than not. I myself, who looks around for soccer, international soccer, ask me to name one top Australian uh, uh, player, and the last one I heard was Cahill, and I think he retired already. So, and I apologize for that, but it's hard to kind of like follow um, the Australian national team when there isn't like one name that really like stands out unless you're like deeply entrenched in um and invested in like all of the national teams. So yeah, Tim Cahill is like the last one, and I think he's already retired. So yeah, he's 45. So I don't think he's playing. I don't, if he is, dang. So no. So, but yeah, I look at the current. Let's see, current players. Mm, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the current players here, and I'm trying to see if any name sticks out. No, there's no name that, at least to me. Uh, yeah, like based off of the recent players that got called up. Um, yeah. So again, hope I'm this upcoming World Cup now ends up and see what Australia has to offer once again. It could be another group stage exit, or they might even reach the round of 32. Given that there's going to be more teams coming in, so then now that's going to be up to them. So yeah, that's Australia. The next team that I want to talk about is Brazil. Brazil, and 100%, you're probably thinking like, how did Brazil, in one of their worst moments in the qualifiers, qualified? Simple. Everybody else sucks. That's the only way that you can get in. And Brazil, I think at one point people thought, is it possible? Is Brazil gonna truly get out? And then you realize there's Venezuela, Peru, Chile. and Colombia is kind of like iffy, and everybody else is kind of just like fighting in. So 100%, even if Brazil didn't qualify directly, we would have seen Brazil taking that um, inter confederation playoffs to qualify to the World Cup. So I do not think Brazil would have not qualified to the World Cup. I think they would have either through directly or through the playoffs. Um, but they have done so on June 10th, 2025, directly ended up in one of the top six. They still have two more games to go, but based off of the games that they're going to be playing and who they're going to be playing, it's basically impossible for them to end up in the playoff spot. So Brazil, Brazil is a team that no matter how they qualify or what tournament they're in, they're always going to be considered as a possibility team to win the World Cup. They may not be the favorites, but they always say like if any of these other teams um, screw up, Brazil can definitely take it because they're Brazil. That's the logic behind it. I don't need to talk much about Brazil. We all know their history. They're the only national team that have qualified to every single World Cup, and in Copa America wise, they're one of the big teams as well. Um, Interestingly enough, though, let's see. So yeah, Brazil, as we all know, has kind of been in a rut, and the surprise is that they have the talent. So it was surprising to see Brazil get knocked out by Croatia, a team that was on the verge of the end of their silver generational team, um, while Brazil was coming up with new players, and yet they couldn't do it. I think they, it wasn't by Croatia. Yeah, it was Croatia. Croatia eliminated them. Um, so in the 2004 Copa America, they ended up eliminated in quarterfinals in a group that even them, I believe they were like, let me click on it so I can remember because I, for some apparent reason, thought they didn't qualify. Yeah, they ended up in second place behind Colombia. So they ended up with 5 points. They tied Costa Rica. Costa Rica, a team that Brazil should have beaten. Um, they tied Colombia, and then they had to go. Oh, sorry, they beat Paraguay 4-1, and then they had to not lose against Colombia and hope to have a better. Um, they just didn't have to lose against Colombia, which they didn't. They tied, and they went to the quarterfinals, in which they then lost to Uruguay in penalties. And all of this comes based off of the players that they have. We all know it. Many players are either in Real Madrid or Barcelona, Liverpool, playing in Germany, even in even in South America. But Brazil is one of those weird cases that they have the talent on the field, and yet they haven't had somebody to truly take the reins. And now that they have Ancelotti, it's going to be an interesting uh, um, view to see how they either turn around or it's kind of more of the same. Um, I mean, recently, if I pull up their most recent games, da-da-da-da-da, whoop. So in March, the qualifiers, they beat Colombia 2-1, and then they lost heavily to Argentina in Argentina 4-1. And then tied Ecuador 0-0 in Ecuador, and then they beat Paraguay by the minimum 1-0. So once again, there isn't that like that sense that Brazil is back. The big scary Brazil is back. It might take time. They might um get there by the time the World Cup comes around. I see that they have like the two next games are against Chile and Bolivia, two teams that are essentially eliminated. Or I think Chile is definitely eliminated. Um, and I mean, if they don't win these two games, it's. I mean, the Bolivia I can kind of understand because they have this whole thing of like it's always hard playing in Bolivia because of the height and where the stadium's at. Um, but then I mean, they have a friendly, some type of cup against Japan in October, a Angola in November, and then two other games that they currently don't have sorry any friendlies lined up. But Brazil has to change. They need to, because if this continues 100%, everyone's expecting another quarterfinal exit if they don't get cross paths with a big club um, on the round of 32 or the round of 16. But that's kind of where we're at with Brazil, is that if that we expect them to go far unless they crash into a team like Spain, like France, Argentina, um, heck, even maybe England. England lost to Senegal, so hey, Morocco. I think a lot of people think like Morocco could have beaten Brazil in the 2022 World Cup. So it's up to Brazil. It's up to Brazil. It's up to the players. I don't really like to talk about the players because they know they have the talent. They know they have the skill. For whatever reason, there's no chemistry within them, and their Ancelotti's needs to create that chemistry between them. Um, Otherwise, it's going to be another disappointment performance for Brazil at the World Cup. And I mean, who knows at this point then when Brazil can will become a true contender to winning the World Cup once again. So I mean, it took Argentina a while to get there, and they did, and they won. And now, for the second year in a row, they are a contender to win the World Cup again. So I hope Brazil under Ancelotti change for the better. That way, we can get even better football out of Brazil, and their games are more um, uh, elusive for wanting people to, or to get people to watch their games, and hopefully, they're able to bring that on the field once again. So yeah, that's Brazil. Ecuador is the third. Yes, it's the third CONMEBOL. Um, sorry, is the third CONMEBOL uh, team to qualify to the World Cup. They did so on June 10th, 2025. Ecuador is something else right now. They are, and let me explain, because they're currently in second place, tied with Brazil for 25 points. They're on top of Brazil because of goal differentials at this point. Ecuador started with minus 3 points. They got docked because of some uh, illegal uh, fielding a player legally or something. I can't remember. Oh, here it is. Ecuador is penalized 3 points for the use of false birth documents for Byron Castillo in the previous World Cup qualification cycles. So Ecuador could have had 28 points right now. Could have had. But they started out with minus 3, and somehow, they're still in second place. That shows testament to how good Ecuador is right now. And you're probably like, well, now wait a minute. Brazil also has 25 and Ecuador has 25. So why is it that when you talk about Brazil, it's about, oh, this is their worst performance, and Ecuador is like, this is their best performance? Simple. You expect a lot more out of Brazil than Ecuador. Simple as that. And because of the players and worldwide, um, and they are the team with the most World Cups. So, and Ecuador is a team. Let's see, currently they have. And now here's the thing: while Brazil has 5 losses, Ecuador has 2. Brazil has 4 ties, and Ecuador has 7 ties. So Brazil has lost more, and Ecuador has tied more than Brazil. They're tied in points right now, and Ecuador could have had 28 points, anywhere between 25, 26, and 28 points, um, because of that. So it's crazy to me that's where Ecuador is at. So that's another testament. So now, interestingly enough, let me pull up the information of Ecuador. Nope, not coaching. Sorry, competitive record. Interestingly enough, Ecuador is a team that has kind of been on and off. So 2002, group stage; 2006, round of 16; 2010, they did not qualify; 2014, group stage; 2018, did not qualify; 2022, group stage. This time around, it feels and it looks like Ecuador could make it far. And I'm not talking about like it could be possible for them to go to the quarterfinals at best. And they go anywhere beyond that, I'd be surprised. At worst, they get out once again in the group stage. But Ecuador is a team that I feel like the way that they're playing right now, they can compete better than other middle teams, and that should put them over the edge. Um, Now, if they come um, cross, kind of like Brazil, if they come across Spain, Argentina, France, another big team, I think that's the end for Ecuador. And it would be a big amazement and welcome surprise if Ecuador beats those teams. But Ecuador is one of those teams that, as long as they don't come across those big teams, they should be able to progress, kind of like Brazil. That's kind of where Ecuador is at. So unless this is one of those, they're good over at Conenbol and then they just kind of crash and burn at the qualifiers. That could also be a possibility. Um, at the Copa America. Sorry, I exited out way too quickly. Recently, 2021 and 2024, they have both made it to the quarterfinals. Um, Basically, getting out of the group stage and then getting eliminated. So once again, Ecuador has the capabilities to really go over the edge. I don't know what is stopping them when it comes to tournaments to really progress. Maybe it's fatigue. Maybe they get comfort in the fact that they just qualified through and past the group stage. I don't know, but Ecuador can be a team that becomes a thorn on the side of bigger clubs if they play well and the players stay focused. So that is something that I'm looking forward to. Ecuador. Obviously, the biggest disappointment is if they just end up with 0 points at the World Cup and get knocked out like that. But I think they can truly be a team that um, surprises us at the World Cup. So yeah, that's Ecuador. So the first of 2 new teams that recently qualified, we might get more later on in the year, Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan qualified on June 5th, 2025, after ending up as a runner-up in their group. So let me look at their group. They qualified behind Iran in a group where they had United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kyrgyzstan, and North Korea. Now, Uzbekistan, nobody has any expectations from Uzbekistan. I feel like them qualifying to the World Cup is already a big achievement. They have not qualified. Um, sorry, let me click on their thing. So they've never qualified to a World Cup before. This is their very first World Cup that they're going to be going to. And then in the AFC, they're one of those teams that are kind of like below or seen as like below South Korea, Iran. Like they're good, but they're considered like a middle team in AFC. So I do not think that at the world stage they're going to be one of the teams. Um, I 100% don't believe anybody to expect Uzbekistan, truthfully, Uzbekistan to win the World Cup. I think they're just going to take this as an honor, go out and do their best. If they get anything more than group stage, 100% welcome. But I think Uzbekistan plays the three group group stage games, and then they're knocked out. Um, I may be wrong. They might make it to the round of 32. If they do, it's welcomed. If they get any farther than that, 100% a story for years to come, and hopefully it inspires. Hopefully, this qualifier to the World Cup already inspires uh, future generations to uh, practice their skills and hope to qualify yet again and grow the program, football program in Uzbekistan. But as of this moment, I don't think they're gonna be a team the to be reckoned with. I think any team, any the big clubs, or even what we can consider the middle teams, if they 100% under um I can't remember what's the word, if they treat Uzbekistan as a team that they're just going to walk over or overconfident. That's the word. If they're overconfident, 100% Uzbekistan can uh, take use that as an opportunity. So don't think they're going to get completely walked over, but they could get walked over. And that's another point, too, is that this is their first World Cup. We don't know how they're going to perform on the biggest stage of them all. They could surprise, but they can also be like, yeah, that's kind of what we expected. 0 points and just give free goals to other better teams. It could be one or the other. So only time will tell. And that is Uzbekistan. The second team to qualify for the first time to a World Cup is Jordan. They qualified in June 5th, 2025, and they did so by being in uh, a runner up in their group, which is Group B. They qualified right under South Korea in a group where they also had Iraq, Oman, Palestine, Kuwait. Now, Jordan qualified by by the skin of their teeth by 1 point. They had 16 points, and Iraq had 15. So they literally qualified by this close. Or otherwise, they would have gone to the fourth round and hoped that they could qualify through there. Now, 100%, this is a surprise already. A lot of people put Iraq over Jordan. And so Jordan ending up with 1 point over Iraq is something that is to be celebrated from them. So let's look at Jordan's stuff. So they tied Kuwait. Jordan, they beat Palestine. They lost to South Korea. They lost to Iraq, 1-0 away. Nope, that's not Jordan. That's Palestine. My bad. Something's weird with these flags, so I got them confused. I apologize. They beat Oman 4-0. There we go. um, Jordan, they tied Iraq away 0-0. They tied Kuwait 1-1 away. They beat Palestine 3-1. They tied South Korea 1-1. That game probably 100% important. And then they beat Oman 3-0. And then they lost to Iraq. They lost to Iraq 1-0 at home. So that is crazy also in of itself. That means that in this game, so this game happened in June 10th. So Jordan had already qualified before they played Iraq. And Iraq goes and beats Jordan at Jordan's um, home place, which is crazy. And it just goes to show you that Jordan really took the opportunities that were given to them and qualified over Iraq by 1 point. So kudos to them. And I mean, congratulations, their very first World Cup that they're going to. Now, Jordan, ooh, that's a nice badge. Da-da-da-dum. So Jordan is a team that is considered middle in the AFC, much like Uzbekistan. So once again, I don't believe Jordan is going to win the World Cup, and I'd be surprised, welcome surprised, if they qualified past the group stage. I think, in all honesty, it's expected for them to just kind of play the group stage and get a feel of it, and then just go home. If we look at the FIFA rankings, I want to make sure I'm getting the right um, information and not just spewing out anything. So, if I look up so Jordan right now is currently at 62 and Uzbekistan is 57. So they're this close. So it could be that Jordan gets eliminated in the group stage. I think if they take their opportunities, they can leave some something for them to want to come back at the biggest tournament, the World Cup, which is going to be taking place in Portugal, Morocco, and Spain. Um, so I think, but they could also turn into another team that just gets destroyed by everybody, and then the middle teams at the world level could beat them or should be able to beat them as well. So I welcome anything if Jordan surprises us. In all honesty, on paper, Jordan should not be able, or I don't think on paper Jordan will qualify. Again, it also depends on who's in the group, which they have not done. They don't do that until I think December of this year. So I wanted to leave just that. So yeah, that's Jordan. All right, so those are the 6 new teams that just qualified to the FIFA World Cup 2026 that is hosted in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So now we have 13 teams that are qualified, and the next FIFA qualifiers won't happen until September. Um, and I'm going to be talking about those qualifiers in a different video. This is, again, just a different type of series. So, yeah, those are the next qualifier. So 13 to go, and my math is bad. So 48 minus 13, 35 more teams to go. That is a lot. That's more than what the last World Cup had. So, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Have a good one. God bless.